What is up, Gorilla Nation? It is Relentless here, bringing you yet another Division 2 build video. But if you happen to be new to the channel, or you're just enjoying the content, then please be sure to ground and pound that like and subscribe button. Also, reach up there, trigger the bell, and turn on post notifications, so that way you never miss a live stream or a video that is uploaded. Quick announcement before we hop into the build. Stay tuned to the channel for tomorrow, September the 11th at 2:30 p.m. to where the videos are already preloaded, but get the first look, some gameplay of the ballpark mission, the amusement park mission, the sights and sounds of Coney Island, and also the new weapons that we'll be getting with Episode 3. They include the Honey Badger, which is an assault rifle, the G38 marksman rifle, the Vic rifle, and of course the Chameleon. So we'll be going over that along with the new specialist, the firewall, and you'll get to see some awesome gameplay of both missions in Coney Island. So hit those notifications and stay tuned till February the 11th, 2:30 p.m. Eastern, and those videos are already preloaded and will be dropping at 2:30. Now that that's out of the way, let's hop into the build. And since I've already played Episode 3, shout out to Ubisoft for giving me the opportunity and the early access to a private server in order to play Episode 3 and get some hands-on looks at it. Now, going along with me playing Episode 3 already, then I have a great idea as far as what to expect. And you want to pair the new specialist with this weapon right here. It's going to be super dope, super strong, and super awesome. 23.8k Pyromaniac with this particular build. This is set up for PVE. You can substitute out the chest piece and have extra weapon damage. I believe it puts mine up to around 24.8, 24.9 if I switched out the vest, but you know, I have to keep it in consideration as far as with my viewers. Some prefer being tanky on PVE, even heroics or whatnot, and some can go with a little less armor and have some more DPS, so it's whatever your personal preferences are when it comes to the likes of that. Now, for story-wise, or just like on challenging, then you definitely want to spec into explosive resistance. Now, if you have a build that has multiple defensive mod slots, then you do not have to put on two-piece Negotiator's Dilemma. You can just substitute defensive mods like I have in mine, and which we'll go into in a moment, that just have explosive resistance. Not so much hazard protection, but you know, it's always good to have some, which this build does, as well as, most important, explosive resistance. But this is paired well with the new specialization. You can also go with like a Berserk Clutch variety, but it's been played out, and when Episode 3 comes out, you'll be seeing the same Clutch Berserk builds that's been out for months and months. They'll just be regurgitated and used with the new specialization, but it's nothing new and nothing that you haven't seen already, but yet you're going to be seeing a lot of it because it's going to make shotgun builds and AR builds, specifically with Berserk and Clutch, super OP. So it's your personal preference. Now, my Pyromaniac, like I stated, 23.8k base, perfectly ignited, deal 40% weapon damage to burning enemies. After 2 kills, apply burning to the next enemy. So therefore, if my hive is on cooldown in order to proc spark, then I can go this method. After 2 kills, the third one automatically applies the burning, or I can use the flame grenades of the survivalist in order to inflict a status effect, which in turn also procs spark. So I have multiple facets at my disposal in order to proc my spark. Now, instead of the Eagle Bearer that I have here, 27.8, you can switch this to the Merciless, so that'll give you another avenue in which in order to proc spark. Or you can just go like I have, more or less with the Eagle, so that way when I'm getting stacks of Bloodsucker, then also while I'm firing my primary, I'm also getting some protected fire, because while the Eagle is holstered, I'm getting 10% bonus armor while firing the weapon. You kind of couple that with the cover to cover that the new specialization is going to give you, which is 50% armor for doing a cover to cover. Just know that it only gives you that 50% bonus proc of armor at the start of your cover to cover, but as soon as you reach your destination, you will lose that proc of the 50% bonus armor with the new specialization. So use whatever secondary you so choose. And then, of course, the sidearm will be a double barrel, just like this one, except for if you hit one of your enemies with your sidearm of the new specialization, it will actually give them a debuff of minus 50% flame resistance. So keep that in mind. Your enemies will be more susceptible to flames, especially if you hit them with your sidearm. So let's go over the gear itself. 3 pieces of True Patriot, which gives me 10% total armor. You can forego the red, white, and blue if you don't want to apply the buffs and debuffs, especially if you're going on heroic or even doing this build with a raid. The only thing that you would change far as on this one, as far as heroic and raid varieties, is take out the knee pads and then just go with a Heliguard pair of knee pads that have patience on them. And the reason being, while you're in cover, if you're running low on armor kits or you're not spec'd into any kind of skill power whatsoever, the 5% that you get every second after 5 seconds of that armor, then that patience is going to increase your survivability and also help you not have to use too many armor kits or not have to rely on skills for heal whatsoever. All you have to do is post up in cover. And speaking of in cover, if you're in cover and need to get out of the way from, let's say, explosions going off around you from mortars or things of that nature, then you can do the cover to cover, get a 50% bonus armor proc of armor during that cover to cover. Then once you reach your destination, then you can resume getting the 5% every second of armor from patience itself. And that is for specifically the raid and Coney Island in particular on heroic or whenever it's invaded. Now, the 2 pieces of Heliguard gives me the 5% total armor and the 20% hazard protection. This backpack has 13.5% total armor, 76 armor, 11% weapon damage, hard hitting, spark, offensive defensive mod slot, 39-45 armor, 3% explosive resistance, and 4% total armor. And the offensive mod slot, 6.5% weapon damage going to my AR, for a total of 17.5% weapon damage just on my backpack. And somebody just blew their horn outside of my house. Apologies for the nerve wrack. Also, chest piece, 14% total armor, 41,411 armor, 34,108 health. Of course, Bloodsucker, depleting an enemy's armor, adds a stack of 25% bonus armor for 10 seconds. Requires 11 or more defensive Legos. And then we have 2 defensive and an offensive mod slot, 51-28 armor, 3% total armor, 4% explosive resistance, 6.5% weapon damage going to my assault rifle. And the second defensive mod slot, 48-69 armor, 3.5% total armor, and then 3% explosive resistance. Now keep in mind, I have to take in consideration of those that like tankier builds on PVE and some that can handle a lot less armor and still be really effective. Because it's their playstyle and something that they're used to. So you can switch out the likes of this particular chest piece with one such as this. So this one has 14.5% more weapon damage on it as far as an attribute and still has the offensive mod slot. So you can increase the output of this particular build, 14.5% weapon damage, but it drops your armor down to 360k armor. So if you can go with a little less armor and you prefer that little extra DPS, then you can swap out to a vest like the one that I just previously showed you. But if you like to be a little more tankier, so that way if you have to go help out your teammates and pick them up because their skills as far as the revive hive is not working, then the extra tankiness will come in handy when you go to do them. But you can just cover to cover, repeatedly to them, and you can get that 50% bonus armor for those cover to covers, which is you can, be like the field medic that's running across the battlefield, helping everybody. So, moving on to the 3 pieces of True Patriot. This particular mask has 53% damage to elites, 40% hazard protection, along with a 2-piece Heliguard that gives me 20, so a total of 60% hazard protection. It has an offensive mod slot, 6.5% going to my assault rifle. Moving on to the holster, it has 2 offensive mod slots. In the first one, we're getting 5.5% assault rifle damage in the offensive mod, and then the second one, 6.5%. And the rolls on this particular holster is 787 skill power and then 728 health. I'm still looking for a better one. I do have this one. that I have health in both roles, even though one of the roles is just like the other one. One has 29,000 health, this one has 24. And you can see it only helps my health out a little bit, but because of the other one has a higher baked in armor on it, that is why the armor drops on this one. Now, this also has skill power on it, but it has pretty much double the health roll. So if I was looking for extra health, then I would definitely put on a holster such as this. Now, I'm looking for one that already has, like the roll that I put on here, say 10.5% health, so that way I can put, 40 to 50,000 roll on it, just like my Bloodsucker holster here with 45, and as you can see, it would help out my health tremendously. Speaking of which, before I hop into it, if you don't want to go patience and you just want to go with a little bit more DPS, but still have, that survivability and tank, you can skip the patience, and like I just showed you, you can put on a holster, a wipe and wear. You will lose one offensive mod slot. It'll have one attribute, so your health will go up. My armor went up by 3k, and it'll have perfect bloodlust, which is weapon swapping, grants 20% weapon damage for 5 seconds. Now, the key to this one is, if you're using the Merciless, then you not necessarily want to use a Blood Lust holster. Now, if you're going with the likes of a Rail Splitter, or the Eagle Bearer, or MTAR, or CTAR, F2000, whatever, or even the new Honey Badger, which is, that's what I'll be planning on using, then just swapping weapons will give you a 20% damage boost by way of Bloodlust, and that just requires you to switch weapons. But you'll be losing one offensive mod slot, so if you have 6.5% weapon damage on that, really you'll only be getting, roughly 13.5 to 14% additional weapon damage for swapping. So it just depends on your personal preference, but that is another alternative in which to run this particular build. Now, those knee pads have 12% total armor on this final and third piece of True Patriot, 6.5% or 6% weapon damage going to my assault rifle, and 5644 armor, 3% total armor, and then 3% explosive resistance. If you need more explosive resistance, as far as in the defensive mods, then you can just switch them out for mods that have a much higher explosive resistance on them. But as you can see, the ones that I have definitely a lower total armor percentage and more or less mediocre armor roll on them. But it all depends on your personal preferences. Now, the character sheet here that we'll go over: 25.5% all weapon damage, and then 65% assault rifle damage, for a total of 91.5% weapon damage going to my assault rifle. And the rest are as follows: 87k health, 43,946 health regen, 15% protection from elites, 14.35 explosive resistance. Couple that with the tankiness of this build at 427k armor, and you can even have put a little extra explosive resistance in there if 14.35% explosive resistance isn't enough for you, and of course that 60% hazard protection. So definitely go try it out. It's going to be a banger of a PVE build, even more so when the Episode 3 new specialist, the Firewall, comes out. And it's just really fun. So whatever you so choose to use as the archetype weapon, it still does a heap and helping of damage. And also, this is not even the tip of the iceberg, because then you factor in the whole spark. And if you wanted to go the whole Bloodlust avenue, that's even more damage. So it's whatever your personal preference. I gave you some examples, but I know there's multiple different ones out there, different variations. So appreciate you guys. Thanks for tuning in. Just want to give you a heads up on what I think when it comes to PvE is going to be a most effective. And also, stay tuned for a second one that'll involve Berserk and Clutch. But I'm not really sure if I should actually put that build out, because the YouTubosphere is saturated with regurgitated Clutch builds over and over and over. I mean, if you've seen on one, you've seen them all. Yes, they may have little slight variations in them, but let's get the brass tacks. They're exactly the same. They just change over the thumbnail, and like I said, regurgitate the same builds from previously. But they're still going to be good, especially the Clutch, Berserk, and Shotgun builds. So definitely go check them out. And again, February the 11th, which is tomorrow, 2:30 p.m. Eastern, that gameplay footage of Coney Island will drop along with the specialist and all the new weapons. So appreciate you guys. We'll see you fudging later.